A massive diplomatic success with the New Delhi declaration being achieved at the G20 Summit. To talk about how the world is looking at this massive achievement diplomatically, we have with us the Argentinian President, Mr. Alberto Fernández. Mr. Fernández, thank you so much, sir, for taking the time out and speaking to us here at Times Now. Let me begin by asking you, now that the New Delhi declaration is out there, how do you see this in terms of being a big diplomatic achievement? How do you view this?
I believe India has done a great job during this summit. It's a really rough time for the world, and India has been able to convene all the countries and actually reach a declaration in really hard times. So as G20 members, during our debate, had really fruitful discussions as we actually reach a nearly unanimous view on what the crisis is about in terms of climate, energy and food, and the pending debts that we still have to solve.
The
press is always concerned about the final declaration, and they think that that is a measure as to whether the summit was a success or not. But in truth, the summit was very useful, regardless of the declaration. It doesn't matter if we actually reached it or not. Because we were able, as leaders, to say what we actually saw, and we could say it clearly. And it was also important for us, southern countries, to put the question to northern countries about how they are handling climate change and the lack of help from northern countries, which were the ones that actually caused the climate change. And also we were able to tell them that the international system isn't working as it should, and that's why it was important to be at the summit.
Okay, if I can also ask you, sir, consensus was also reached on the fact that this is not an era of war. Now, unlike the wording, of course, the phraseology has changed since the Bali summit, but the fact that it is a unanimous declaration this time now, we've also managed to say that sovereignty of nations and integrity should be respected. In the context of what's happening between Ukraine and Russia, how significant is this?
Argentina has, from the very beginning, taken a very clear position in terms of what it thinks how Russia behaved during the Ukrainian conflict. And what was the appropriate forum for us to say this? The UN. And it is at the UN that we condemned the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Clearly, the war waged by Russia has effects on places other than the territory of Ukraine. And this gives rise to a geopolitical issue that causes the EU and America to place this problem at the forefront and on top of other problems that are also being faced. Less than 2 months ago, we held a summit of the European Union and the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States, the CELAC. And it was a political and economically important meeting. But Europe was only concerned with us including a paragraph referring to the Ukrainian war. And there were almost 40 paragraphs, and only one of them referred to the Ukrainian war. But the other 39 paragraphs were dependent on us, including that one for the declaration too. Something similar happened here. And we ended up agreeing on text that we could all sign. But in truth, the forum for us to condemn Russia's actions is the United Nations. That is the place for us to criticize against what Russia has done. And what ends up happening at meetings such as this is that there are three positions. The first position is that of Russia, which justifies or gives justifications for the war. There is a second position where we all say we do not justify war under any terms. And within that second position, there are two positions in turn. That of those who say, well, we do not accept the war, but we're going to support Ukraine so that it'll continue with the war. And those of us that say, well, let's bring Russia and Ukraine to the negotiating table. because it is a difficult position to understand, the one that involves saying, well, I don't want the Ukrainian war to continue, but I will give you the weapons to continue with the war.
Also, if I can ask you, you met Prime Minister Modi first during the G7 summit last year. How do you think India's presidency in that light has turned out?
It was definitely successful, no doubt. Modi is a leader, renowned as a leader throughout the world. And what I was able to determine from my meetings with him is that we have similar views on what is happening to the South, and what is happening to the world, and on the ways in which we can help solve all these problems.
Also, is there anything that you told Prime Minister Modi in these interactions, anything specific in terms of mutual interest? Because, you know, as far as the inclusion of African Union as well, that's something that Argentina has also spoken about, and that's actually happened in this particular summit. Also, these expansions, including of the BRICS, for instance, of Argentina, that's something that PM Modi has also backed very strongly. So how do you view all of this? I
believe that the inclusion of Africa in the G20 is in some way a kind of historical reparation for what Europe has done to Africa in the past. And I do believe that Prime Minister Modi has served justice in suggesting the inclusion of Africa in the G20. Well, the extraction policies in Africa were very harmful and really damaging, and that is why I believe that Africa has to be given a voice, because in spite of all that it has gone through, it still remains a very rich continent, not only in terms of energy and food and minerals, but also in terms of culture. So I'm very happy that Africa has been included in the G20. And as regards Argentina's incorporation into the BRICS, that's something I've been fighting for since 2021. I formally asked President Xi Jinping when he was pro tempore president of the BRICS. And I talked about this with everyone, with President Putin, with President Xi Jinping, with President Modi, with President Ramaphosa, with former Brazilian President Bolsonaro, and obviously with the current President Lula. Because it is very important for Argentina to have entered the BRICS, because we have always seen the BRICS as providing an alternative view, an alternative take on the international system. And that alternative view does not force us to exit multilateralism. We can continue at multilateral forums, and that is why I think the incorporation into the BRICS is so fruitful.
And anything about your interaction with Prime Minister Modi during the course of the summit? What were you able to share with him? Did he say anything to you? Did you raise any issues, for instance, between India and Argentina, who have been growing closer? Any areas of cooperation, for instance?
Well, we talked in Munich already about, and we defined a kind of roadmap, a plan, and on how to improve our relations, our trade relations, and that is the path we're walking right now. And today we took another step to work together in this group of countries that are producers of biofuel. I really wish that our relations with India will deepen, because India is a very powerful country which can be seen to, well, that will play a very prominent role in the international scenario. And I especially like the fact that such a powerful country has ethical rules to relate to others and to develop as well. Also, do you see defense as an important area of cooperation, because your defense minister has been here? Is that an important aspect of the trade as well that you hope will grow in coming years? Well, we're in the process of re-equipping our armed forces, and that is why our Minister of Defense was here. We're looking into what we can do, and defense is just one of the fields in which we can cooperate further.
Also, sir, we're talking about a time when elections are to be held in your country. We've seen that there have been economic challenges as well. How do you view the future as far as Argentina is concerned? Tell us about your views.
Well, this year has been a very complex year for Argentina because we sustained a major drought that caused us to lose almost about 3 percentage points of our GDP. This compounded by the war, which has led to an increase in food and energy prices, and also the European and American decision to raise the interest rates has had a severe impact on Argentine economy. But we're only talking about a temporary stress caused by the drought and by the lack of currency of the US dollars. But I do believe that next year we will be able to recoup very fast.
If I can bring you back to the Delhi declaration, the fact that Xi Jinping was not present, the Chinese president not there, and also President Putin was not there, do you think that this in any way either helped or hindered in terms of the final conclusion and a unanimous conclusion coming out of Delhi?
Well, in both cases, their foreign ministers were there, so the declaration has the same importance as if they had been there themselves.
And my final question to you, sir, is about ties between, we saw Argentina's victory in the World Cup. Football is a sport that has been popular and has been only growing in India in terms of its popularity. People even worship Lionel Messi over here. There are a huge number of fans of Lionel Messi. And this is also an age of strong cultural ties. So how can Argentina and India, for instance, build on this common passion for sports?
I'm really happy that India has a passion for Argentine football. In Argentina, of course, football is a passion. When we win, we're the best in the world, and when we lose, we are the worst in the world. When in fact you only win or lose like in any game. But that's where passion comes into play. Well, if India needs our help in terms of this sport, of course, we would be delighted to help. Well, this is actually my first time in India, and I've spoken more than once to President Modi, and I must say I've had a great time. And India is a country with a beautiful history, and it has really healthy people, really mentally healthy people, and I would love it for Argentina to have stronger ties to your country.
Con gente de cabeza sana, con la que me gustaría que la Argentina se vincule mucho más.
So how soon can we expect you back in India, and can we expect that we'll be seeing the big football stars with you when you come the next time?
Well, you know how football works today. It does not depend on me at all. But I'd love it for Argentine football to reach India as well.
Thank you so much for taking the time out and speaking to us here at Times Now. Thank you.
Thank you very much.